This week, Google continues to investigate a serious hack of its network and the email accounts of some of its users. We also have the ongoing fallout of the relationship between China and Google. It comes as the French, German and Australian governments have called on their citizens to abandon using Internet Explorer browser, the IE browser, in order to protect security. Joining me in the studio is technology editor Peter Marks. Welcome to Breakfast, Peter.
Good morning, James. Good to be with the A+ team.
How serious is this Internet Explorer problem?
Look, it's not just Internet Explorer. Google are investigating. There was quite a highly sophisticated attack, a targeted attack on corporate infrastructure, which has been found to have originated in China. And exactly how that attack occurred is being looked into. There's two suspects. One of them is someone was using the old version of Internet Explorer, IE6. Now, no one should be using IE6 anymore. It's been updated several times, and you should be on IE8, or you should be on alternative browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. So this is really only affecting those users who have not updated in many years. The other possible culprit is Adobe's Acrobat Reader has had a security flaw which was patched just last Tuesday, where simply opening a specially crafted PDF document could get in some sort of virus into your machine. Now, we should be aware that attacks on prominent websites are happening all the time, and Google has been attacked many times. Any website will be attacked. But in mid-December, Google detected this highly sophisticated attack, and it resulted in the theft of intellectual property from Google. So in other words, they got inside their network. But not only that, this attack was atypical in that at least 20 large companies were simultaneously attacked, and they were from the internet, finance, technology, media and chemical sectors. Now, evidence suggests that the primary goal of the attackers was to access the Gmail accounts of Chinese human rights activists. Google says that only a few accounts were actually accessed and on this occasion, and only the subject lines were read. However, the Foreign Correspondents Club of China sent an email out yesterday to its members warning that some journalists, including one from the Associated Press, have noticed that when they went into their settings in Gmail, they found that their incoming email was being forwarded to an address they didn't know. So you need to watch for that too. So obviously their accounts had been accessed. Now, in separate investigations, not this incident the other day, in December, dozens of US, China and Europe-based Gmail users who advocate human rights in China who appear to have been routinely accessed. And these cases appear to have been, these Gmail accounts have been compromised via phishing schemes. So that's where someone makes a fake login screen, for example. You think you're logging into whatever it is, but in fact it turns out you're giving up your username and password, or some sort of malware on the computers.
I might have misrepresented slightly the government's position in my intro. You can still use Internet Explorer, you just need to make sure you have the latest version. Is that the case?
Yeah, even Microsoft says, steer clear. It's certain versions with certain operating system upgrades of IE6, but in general, my advice is if you're running, check what version, go to the help menu, see what version you're running, get off IE6. In fact, CERT, the Computer Emergency Response Team in the US, some years ago actually issued an edict saying, look, anything but IE. So, IE is the most used browser still, although Chrome's doing very well, but make sure you're not on IE6.
Is that because the Microsoft have developed a weak product, or because it's so popular that everyone's working out how to break into it?
You're right. Obviously, the hackers will go for the most popular platform. That's why Windows has always been the risky one, and they'll also go for the most popular browser. But problems like the Adobe Acrobat Reader are really blindsiders. You think when you're opening up a PDF that you should be safe. You're just viewing a document after all. So that was a really bad security problem. It did take them, I think, too long to actually to address that issue. It was only last Tuesday they issued the patch. So maybe Google knew about this and waited until the patch was out there.
Does that mean people who use PDF documents, which is pretty much all PC users, may have this problem in Australia?
They could do, and you should update. If you're running Adobe's products, they do pretty aggressively pop up and say it's time to upgrade. So you should, basically, the other advice is if your operating system wants to update, and you should turn automatic updates on, then say yes, don't defer.
My mother with PCs, her rule is just keep clicking buttons until the message goes away. That's not a strategy you'd advise.
Well, she needs to get off Vista and get on to Windows 7.
What about China and Google?
Yeah.
It's a huge relationship, but one that is fraught with difficulty. That China hasn't kicked Google out, and Google hasn't said they're going to leave.
Now, Google set up in China in 2006, and at the time, one of the conditions of putting their search engine into Google was that they would agree to censor their search results. And what they've done is, they've traced this attack back to China. In fact, they believe it's the Chinese government. And so what they said is, look, if you're going to do this sort of stuff, we're not going to censor anymore. So they removed the censorship of Google search results. Google were always uncomfortable about censoring, and indeed they put a note at the bottom of the search results page to tell users that the results had been filtered. I should mention that the other search engines, Yahoo and Microsoft, with Bing, also do filter in China. They censor their results. But now, when Google removed this, if you, for example, search in Google for Tiananmen Square massacre, you will now see those iconic images of the tank and the student, which until now were really unknown. Now, Google knows that by uncensoring their results, they will be blocked by China's Great Firewall, and so this could be the beginning of the end.
But as things stand at present, a browsing Chinese national in China can learn all about the Tiananmen Square massacre.
I doubt it, James. But if, for a few days there or for a few minutes there, they could. So probably this will now be swept up with the normal filtering in China.
Our technology editor, Peter Marks. Good to have you. We'll have you next week with Fran back in the chair.
That's right.